Hey there you guys, what's going on? In this video we're going to create this beautiful search users box, and we're going to use a third-party API to fetch these data from these users. We're going to use HTML CSS JavaScript to create this whole project. Before we start, I would like to ask you to subscribe my channel and drop a comment to support me. Thank you guys. Let's start. Alright guys, now let's start creating the project. I'm gonna create a folder, call it live search user, and let's open VS Code using code dot. And first things first, let's create our files. So I create an index.html and a style.css and finally script.js. Now I create a new folder here and call it images, and inside this images I'm gonna just add these two squared images of users, and you can just get these kind of images anywhere at Google. You can just search for people's photos and just make them squared. It's not something so hard or complicated to find, so just you can add your own images. But be careful that the image should be actually squared. But we're not going to use these images in the project. We're going to just use them at the beginning of the project because we want to first see our styling, and then later we're going to use the images from the API. So let's create the HTML snippets, and let's write live user search at the title. Now inside the head tag, as you can see, we need to add a font and CSS file, make them uppercase, and inside the body, at the bottom of the body, we're going to add our script tag. So this is the script tag. We're going to use src, the attribute of src, to link our JavaScript file to the project, and for the fonts, we're going to bring the Roboto fonts. So all we need to do is go to Google and write Roboto. Let's open this website and let's click on get font and get embed font and copy this code. That's it. Now all you have to do is to paste this code under these fonts comments. So you have now inside the head tag. Now for the CSS file, I'm going to use link tag, and inside href, I'm going to give the address of style.css. Now that we are all set up, let me run the project. And the project is run, as you can see. Now let me test the project. Sorry. Make this one smaller. Let's test the project. I'm going to write h1 hello world, and as you can see, hello world is there, so everything's working correctly. Now let's start with the HTML file. Well, the HTML is actually pretty easy, and this is not something complicated that we're going to do. So first things first, we're going to create a container, a div with the class of container. Let me make this one, close this one so we can see better. A class with a div with the class of container, and inside container, first we're going to create a header, and this is actually a div with the class of header, not a header tag. And inside this header, we create a header top. Inside header top, we create an h1, which is search users, and under h1, we're going to create a p, and this p should be search by name or locations. Now, as you can see, they're right there. And now under the header top, we create a div with the class of search bar, and we create an input inside it. The input should have the type of text, and let's give it a placeholder of search, and let's give it an ID of, an ID of filter. Very well. Now this was our header. Now under header, we're gonna create our user lists. So we say users list. So users list. Now let's create a UL, and inside that UL, well, before we create our LI, we give it a class of user list, and let's give it an ID of result. Now let's create an LI here, and this LI should have the class of user box, or user box. And this user box has first an image, and this image is going to be right there. Under the image tag, we create an h2. Inside that, we write Jane Doe, and let's say Lara Maya. Then we have a p tag, and inside the p tag we're going to write the city name and the country name, so Berlin and Germany. Let's create another li, and we're going to use the other user's picture, and we give it the name of John Doe, and the city will be New York, and the country will be the US. So as you can see, we have our users. We're not, as I told you before, we're not going to use these images as our final images. We're going to use the images from the API. Now we're pretty much done. No, we are completely done with the HTML. Now let's go for the style.css. All right, now the first step in CSS is the default styling of margin 0, padding 0, box sizing border box, and the text decoration should be none, and the list style should be none as well. And we're going to give everything a font family of Roboto. Very good. Now our CSS style is working well. And now the next step is going for the body tag. For the body tag, we're going to give it first a background color of 171F29, which makes it dark. And let's give it a color of white. And the display is going to be flex and justify content center, align item center. And let's give it a height of 100 view height and a width of 100%. Now with the container, we need to give it a display of flex and the flex direction of column. And also we're going to say justify content center, align item center. And we're going to give it a gap of 10 pixels, and the background color should be 05080F. And border radius should be 20 pixels, and let's give it a width of 700 pixels. Let me make this a little bit bigger so you can see what is happening actually very well. Now after container, we're going to say container.header it's going to have a width of 100% and a background color of 122435, and we're going to give it a border radius of 20 pixels, 0 0, because we want to just give these parts of the header this side, the first from the left from the left top, and then left right, top right. So top left, top right, they are going to have border radius, but bottom right and bottom left, they're going to have a border radius of 0 because I don't want our header to have any border radius. And then let's give a padding of 25 pixels. So there's a space here, looks better. Container header and header top. So this is going to have a width of 100%. Now for the container header and header top and H1, we're going to give it a font size of 48 pixels. I think I made a mistake. Header top like that. Now I'm going to copy this one. I'm going to select the P tag, and the P tag is going to have a font size of 14 pixel and the color of 88A1C2. Now I'm going to give it a margin of 10 pixels on 0. So from top and bottom it has a margin, and I'm going to give it a margin of 10 pixels on 0 and to our header, or let's just give it a margin bottom of I think the header is okay. Now for the P tag, I'm going to just give it a 15 pixel margin. Now for the input, we say container header and header search bar. The input, we're going to target it and say the width should be 100%. Now the padding should be 15 pixels, and the margin top should be 12 pixels, or maybe less, 4 pixels, 5 pixels, enough. And a border radius of 20 pixels. And let's say the background color should be 070C11, and the border should be none, and outline should be none as well, and the color should be white. And font family, we're gonna give it a Roboto font. So there you go. And I think the outline should be none. That 0 was actually a typo and a mistake. Now everything works perfect. Now let's go for the user list. The user list, which one is the user list? This UL actually is the user list. So now let's go for this one. We're going to give it a display of grid. We're going to give it a grid template columns, 1FR, 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 1FR. And as you can see, I actually created here 4 columns. So if I copy these LIs one more time, so I have 4 users, you can see there are 4 columns. So if I copy 2 more ones, if I copy and paste 2 LIs, you can see that there are 4 columns right here, and I achieved it using 1FR. It means actually 4, or I can say, I can write something smaller. I can say repeat 1FR 4 times. Sorry, 4 times 1FR, made a mistake. This is actually pretty much the same thing, but you know, this is just shorter. It's a repeat 4 times 1FR, so all of the columns are equal. So just give it a gap of 10 pixels, or maybe 14, 12. So now let's give it a justify content center, align item center, and then let's give it a height of 400 pixels. And let's give it an overflow Y of auto, because when there are many users, I don't want these users to go out of the box. We're gonna see what happens with this overflow Y in a minute. Just give me a minute to finish this styling with 100%, and I'm gonna give it a padding left of 30 pixels. And a width of 100. I think I already gave the width of 100. Now, if I add more users, now let's copy these LIs one more time. I copied actually all of them and paste them. Now, this overflow Y auto gives you this beautiful option to scroll your users down, and it doesn't go outside of this 400 pixels div. So UL actually. So this is a very practical option that CSS offers. So you can simply use it. Now let's go for what is the next step? I'm pretty much confused. So let's go for the user list and user box. Now let's say that the padding should be 10 pixels between each user. So actually around each user should have a padding of 10 pixels. Now the height should be feed content. And also we need to, well, for some reasons that you're gonna find as pretty much soon, I'm gonna add a user list, user box, and then hide. So this is something that we are dealing with later. Let's give it a display of none. So when I add a hide class to these users, they're gonna hide out, and we're gonna then find out why we actually did that. So then let's say user.list user.box, and the image, the width should be 80 pixels and the height should be as well 80 pixels, and the border radius of the users should be 50%. Now for the user list user box H2, we should have the font size of 17 pixels, so they are smaller. And for the p tag, we're going to have a font size of 12 pixels and the color of CA. Very well. Now our application is pretty much done, but this is not at all responsive. As you can see that these actually the boxes connecting the edges, and we're not gonna let that happen. So let's give it a little bit of responsive styling. We're gonna use the media query, media screen, and max width, and sorry, not nad, and max width, and we're gonna give it a 792 pixels. So when we say when the screen shrinks to, let me use my Google Chrome tools. So when we shrink the page, just look at this pixels right here that is shrinking. When we shrink the page until 762. Now let's bring this container down. Let me copy this one. Let me bring it down, and let's erase all of these extra styling, just keep the width, and we're gonna just shrink it to 580 pixels. So by the time we go to 762 pixels, the width of container is 580 pixels. Now let's just finish it up. We say that when we get to 626, just let us give the container a width of 90%, and then it just shrinks itself according to the screen size. But something looks very ugly. These 4 columns are terrible here, so we need to do one more thing in order to make it very good responsive. Let's go up, and we see that this container is actually, sorry, this user list has actually the display of grid, and 4 columns are here, so we can do something here to make this one responsive and solve this problem. Let's erase all of them, and as well this one. So we can say, instead of repeat for 1fr, we can say repeat out of it, min max. Then we can say each user should have a 100 pixels width, and the height should be auto. So now when you shrink the page, they just, the columns will reduce the number, and it is totally responsive. Now we're pretty much done with the styling, so it's working well. Now before we go for the JavaScript code, I want to actually bring that loader, that CSS loader I showed you. Now the CSS spinner is very easy to bring in. It is not at all a very difficult job to do. So we open this website. It is called loading.io/CSS. And inside that website, you can see that there are these beautiful spinners. So the one that I actually picked is this one. So I'm going to just click on the spinner I want. So when you open it, you can see that there is a CSS code that you can copy, and there is also an HTML code. So first I'm going to copy the HTML code. So you can click on it and copy it. And then we go to our HTML file. So up above our LIs right here, I'm going to put the divs with the class of LDS ripple. And also I copy the CSS code, and then I go to my style.css, and under the media queries, I'm going to write the CSS grid, and then I paste the stylings. Now, if I go to my project, you can see that this is exactly right here, but I actually want this one to appear at the middle. Let me just comment my allies. Just let me select all of my allies. Now, as you can see, my spinner is at the middle, but I want to put it right at the middle of this div. So I'm gonna just use inline styling, because I want you to see what happens actually at the same frame. So this is the parent div. As you can see, this is the container, this UL, and this is our spinner. So now let's use the style attribute, and inside style we're going to give it a position of relative. Now to this one I'm going to use a style, and to this one I'm going to give a position of absolute. Now if I give it a left of 42%, now you can see that it actually stands at the middle of the container, the middle of UL, and the problem is solved. Now if I just bring my allies back, let me uncomment them. Now as you can see, it is right here, but don't worry, as soon as we start with our JavaScript code, as soon as we fetch the API, it's gonna just go away when the users are fetched. So let me just, for now, I'm gonna comment the spinner. So this is the CSS spinner, and for now I'm gonna comment this one. But as soon as I fetch my data using but as soon as I fetch my data, I'm going to just make this spinner go away as soon as users are actually loaded. We're going to deal with that later. So just for now, we commented our spinner, and now let's go for our JavaScript code. Alright guys, now let's start with our JavaScript code. But before we start, let's check the HTML file. In our HTML, we have an UL with the ID of result. Now we want to select this UL with the ID of result. So I go to my JS file and write const result is equal to document.getElement by ID, and then I select the ID of result. So this is my first variable, and as my second variable I'm going to use const filter. And which one is actually my filter? My filter is this search bar, this input. As you can see, it has the ID of filter. So I say const filter is document.getElement by ID filter. In case you don't know, get element by ID means that just look at the ID of the element and select it. There are other ways to select an element in HTML. Now let's create a variable called less items, and we're gonna assign it to an empty array. And now we go for our API. Now this is the actually fun part. we go to this URL. Let me make this big. Now let's go to our URL. This is randomuser.me. This is actually a free API to generate random users, and this is completely free. You don't have to sign up, you don't have to pay. This is completely free. So you just have to come down to this how to use. Inside that we have a URL here, as you can see. I'm gonna copy this URL, and if you just paste this URL in your browser, you can see that this just returns you data, but I don't know why it just gave me a user. I think you have to just, after API, you need to put a question mark and say results. I just remembered I did it actually before, and you say, for example, 20. So if you use that, you say API results 20, and then it just gives you 20 users. So if you just ask for 50 users, it gives you 50 users, as you can see. Now, as you can see, this results has a lot of data inside it. The gender of user, a name of user, the location, street, city, state, and so on. And this is the API that we are going to use. So let's go back to our project. So I am going to create an async function, async function, because it has to be async, because when we fetch APIs, we're going to wait for the data to be fetched from the API. So I have to create an async function, and I name my function to get data. Sorry about that. And inside the get data function, I'm gonna create a variable const res, and it's gonna await to fetch data from HTTPS. The URL was randomuser.me/API. And if you remember, we said we have to put a question mark, and after question mark, we should say results. And the results should be equal to 50 users. Now, after that, we destructure the data. So we say, there are different ways to do that. One way is that actually you can say const data. So you just create a variable, name it name it data, and you can await for the res.json, which actually gives you the data as JSON, and then const results, you can say it is equal to data.results. So now this syntax is actually called destructuring assignment. The function res.json returns a JavaScript object, and inside that object there's a property named results. For example, if I console.log results, let's see the console. So now inside the console, we have nothing, because we need to call the function get data. Now if I call the function, you can see that I have I have 50 users, and each user actually they are wrapped inside an array, and each user is actually an object. Now this object has both keys and values, as you can see. Now a simpler way to do that is to write const results and say await res.json. Now if I again console log results, you can see I have pretty much the same thing, and I just used one line of coding. This is so much cleaner. Now let's go for the next step. Now let's go for the next step, which is actually clearing the results, which is going to be result.inner HTML. It should be equal to an empty string. Now we actually made them go away. So as you can see, if I just comment this line, you can see that these fake data, these hard-coded data, they are back. Now I want them to be gone, and I also remove them from here. Let's remove them because we don't need them anymore. I remove them. Now this one I comment. So let's continue. We're gonna say results dot for each. Now because we have an array, results is actually an array of objects. Now if we want to just do something on each object, we're gonna just use for each, and we say for each user. So for each element in the array, we're gonna say const li. We're gonna create an li, which is when we want to create an HTML element on DOM, we're gonna use document.create element, and which tag we need to create. This is an li. So we actually told JavaScript that you need to create an li tag. I removed this li. Now you have to create one li. This li should actually, so when we create it, we're gonna push it to list items, which is this empty array. So we say list items that push this li that we actually created should be pushed to this array. Now I also say that this li should have the class list of the class list add user.box. Now the li that we are creating here should have the class name. Should have the, let me uncomment this. As you can see, my li has the class of user box, so I need to tell JavaScript after you created the li, you should give it the class of user box. So it follows the styling I gave it. Now the next step, should be li.inner HTML, and we're gonna just use backticks. Now we want to say what exactly should be located inside the li. I'm gonna first create an image, because if you remember, let me just open a new window. Let me bring it right here. I want to show you what is happening. I don't want you to be confused. So let me erase these comments right here. Excuse me. Now this is the li, as you can see. Now if you remember, this is the li and this is the image. So I would say first you need to create an image for this li. So you say src, and this src should have a, now we use the $sign and curly braces in order to get the data from these results. So we say inside that we're going to have the user, because here we're using user as one object. User, picture, and large. So the alt should be user name first, and then I'm going to close the tag. Now the namings that I am using here, I'm not just making them up. As you can see, let me go back to console. As you can see, each object has some keys, and the key to the, oh sorry, I made a mistake. This is not image. As you can see, this is picture. So let me change it. I'm gonna, oh no, I created the I actually put the right name. This is picture. So this user is actually equal to this object. This is the user. Now this user, inside this user, we have a key called picture. Now I selected the picture. Now inside the picture, we have large, medium, and thumbnail. And I actually, this is the size of image, and I actually picked the large size of image. And the user.name, as you can see, this is a name. So user name, and when I say first, so it just select the first name. Sorry. So I'm not making these names up. So they are actually the keys and values inside the object. Now let me bring this HTML right here. Now after I created my image, I need an h2, so I'm going to say please give me an h2 tag. I'm going to close the h2, and inside the h2 I'm going to just create a $sign inside curly braces. I'm going to say user name first, and I'm going to create another one to say user name last, which is the last name of user. Now after that we have a p tag, and inside p tag we have Berlin, Germany, which is actually the p, and let's close the p tag, and inside that we have a user dot city, sorry, first location, then city. I'm going to put a comma here, and then user, location, and country. So that's simple. Now our li is done. Now the final thing we need to do is to append child. So I'm going to say result append child, and we're going to append li. Now as soon as I do that, you can see that our users are right there. Now every time I refresh, it just fetches new users. So you can see that I am getting exactly 50 users right there. Now let's make this input filter to work, but before we do that, let's just make that spinner that I commented before work. Sorry. Now because we actually fetched the data from a real-time API, now we can bring this spinner back. Let me erase this li, we don't need it anymore. Now this is our spinner. I'm going to just bring it back. Now as you can see beautifully, it just works. When you refresh the page for a second, the spinner shows up, and as soon as you get the data from API, it's gonna just go away and you can see the users. Very good. Now you have your spinner working. And then let's go back to our JavaScript code, and here we're going to create our filter.search. Now let's go for let's go outside of this function. We're going to say filter users, and here we have function filter data. Inside that we're going to give the search term as the parameter, and we're going to say the list items, which is actually this array here. We say for each one of them we just select them as the item, and if the item dot inner text, it means if inside of this text, you should just look inside of this text. And then we're going to use to lower case because we don't want it to be case sensitive. So for example, the name is Tim here. If you write Tim, it should find the user. And if you write Tim, it should as well find the user. So if you don't use to lowercase, it may, if you just write Tim, it's not going to find this one for you because it's capitalized. So we say to lowercase, and we say includes the search term. So if the search term that you put here includes if the name or some letters here are included in this search term, and again we have to just put this search term to lowercase. So you're going to use the function of lowercase to both of them, and then you say item dot class list. Then you're going to remove the class list of hide, and this is the right time for me to explain why we actually use this hide class. Let me just finish my condition. We say else, you need to say item class list and add the class of hide. Now as you can see here, I used the user box, and then I gave a class of hide and the display of none. So it says if the search term includes the data inside here, you should remove the class of hide, so the user is going to show And if it's not, you're gonna have to just hide it. So let's try it out. I need to run the function. Under get data, I'm gonna write filter, add event listener, and let's listen for input. I'm gonna give it an event, and filter data function is gonna be called for, and e.target dot value. Now if I think I made a mistake because it doesn't work. Let me just find my mistake. Where did it go wrong? Function filter data. Did I use the name correctly? Yes. No, it doesn't work. Okay, wait for it. So we say filter data search term list items for each item. If item inner text to lowercase. Oh, there's a typo right here. Text. Now, yes, now it works. Now if I say Liana, now as you can see, L-I-A, there is L and I and A in these names. For example, here we have, now for example, we have EM. Now we have EM here. We have EM here, as you can see. And whenever you have EM, you can find the users with that data, with that specific data. H, so it's gonna use just looks for user. HE, now there are just 2 users. F, FA, FE, there is no user with FE. So this is just the searching is working correctly. Now as you can see, now that spinner is working as well correctly. If I just on purpose make a mistake and instead of user say user, you can see that the spinner works and works and works. But there are some things that we can do. For example, if the API has a problem, we can just return an error, but we're not going to work on that in this video because this video is actually it has become too long. We're going to just work on it on another video. I'm going to just stop this video right there. Thank you so much guys for watching. If you liked my video and if my video was helpful, please like and subscribe my channel, sorry, and drop a comment, negative, positive, if you have any suggestions to make my channel better, so I can just create more productive videos for you later in the future time. Thank you so much and have fun.